Welcome to Popes and Pylons. There's a new expansion coming up for Europa Universalis IV. It's called the Golden Century. It's going to be an immersion pack, so not a giant expansion filled full of features, but a smaller pack focusing on a special area of the world. In this case, it's the Iberian Peninsula, so Spain, Portugal, Andalusia, if you manage to form it, and then all the things connected to it, like Mexico, colonial expansion, and a couple of things sort of thematically tied to Spain and or the Iberian Peninsula. And there's going to be a free patch accompanying it, as always, with a bunch of changes as well. And I just want to give you a brief overview of what we know so far about the whole thing, about the Golden Century immersion pack, things that are going to be in that immersion pack itself, things that are going to change with the free patch no matter whether you buy the pack or not, so you get a better overview of what's coming up and maybe can make the decision of whether you want to buy it or not. All this stuff is based on, well, preview information, dev diaries put out, the release stream or the preview stream that Paradox did on the thing. So there could be information missing, information could be outdated, and of course there might be still some things to come. We know that there's going to be some information about achievements to come that we don't have yet, but there might just be more. I will most certainly make another video once we have the full patch notes after the thing releases, but I thought I'd get this out before the release so you guys can decide on whether you want to buy it or not. Also, I may or may not, I don't know yet, get preview access to this expansion pack as well, so time to produce this video might be short. So, what do we get? You're not going to see any gameplay here. I have a bunch of PowerPoint slides I'm going to talk about, but I don't think that there's no real gameplay video available anyway. If you want that, have a look at that preview stream that Paradox did. Let's just talk about these slides. So, new mission trees, national ideas, events. That's just common these days for immersion packs. We get new mission trees for Spain, Aragon, Portugal, Navarra, Morocco, Tunis, Granada / Andalusia if you form that. Potentially quite possibly more, but these are the ones I found out about. I'm not going to show these, it doesn't really make any sense, but especially the Portuguese one is gigantic, so there's going to be a lot to do and explore, and I'm very much looking forward to doing that. As always, there are also going to be some new or tuned national ideas. Of course, Spain, Castile, Morocco, Tunis, all that area, Aragon, Navarra, the Berbers, so North Africa was also changed a bit. Pirate ideas, that's new, and Barbary pirate ideas, and I'm going to talk about pirates in a bit. Bunch of new or changed national ideas. Again, something we're gonna maybe look at in the actual patch review, or maybe I'm gonna do, if I do get that early access to the expansion, maybe we can do a couple of videos on the individual nations, looking at their stats, looking at what they do, looking at their ideas, their trees, and so on. Do a bit of gameplay on that. That would be fantastic. But for now, new missions, trees, national ideas, events. Also, of course, a bunch of map changes. So about these things, I don't say on this slide here whether it's free or patch content, because I don't really free or expansion content, because I don't really know. Probably some of these are going to be free. I assume that all the national ideas are going to be free, but the mission trees might not be. I'm not sure. However, these map changes are going to be free for everyone in the upcoming patch, the Spain patch, and with the expansion. I just brought two of the pictures here that they've released of how the Iberian Peninsula is going to look now and how Mesoamerica is going to look now. You can see there have been a bunch of provinces added to the Iberian Peninsula. For example, Galicia is now 4 provinces instead of 1 up there in the upper left-hand corner of the peninsula. And there are a bunch more changes. There's also, I feel like there are more tags there, but definitely more tags over in Mesoamerica. If you've ever played as the Aztecs or any of those nations with the Flower Wars going on, where you have to constantly be at war and keep on warring people and then taking their land, taking them as vassals and then releasing them again to improve your religion. There weren't that many tags around. There were like 5 tags there, or maybe 6, that were really eligible, and you needed to always have 5. So it was really, you just had to war everybody and then take it and go again. Now there are way more tags, so that could be much more interesting. Also, like alliance chain-wise, coalition-wise, all of that might be quite fun to play there. Still a bit of the issue of waiting for the colonizers to arrive, but we'll see. Maybe we'll even get some new ideas there. That would be, or mission trees, that would be a lot of fun. Looks like a much revamped area, of course. Other things have been revamped, mostly, well, all of America is really North, South America, but also North Africa has gotten an overhaul. with additional tax as well, I believe. So more people to play as. Cool. There are going to be holy orders. This is DLC only. So only if you buy the Golden Century, you're going to get holy orders. This is not a holy order as you would see it in Crusader Kings, for example. It's not somebody you can raise an army from or anything. It's also not the Knights as a march. It is stuff like the Jesuits, for example, that you can assign provinces to, or states to actually. So you need to have a fully court state, and you can hand that over to an order, and they will do something for that state. I chose one example here for Christians. I don't know if you have to be Catholic, definitely Christian, where you can have the Jesuits take control of that state, giving you +1 tax development for each province, I assume. So you just get a tiny bit more tax out of it. You get local missionary strength, and you get build cost reduction. And there are a bunch of other orders. There are also orders for if you form Andalusia, for example, or any similar tax like that for other religions as well, but only from the Iberian Peninsula, and only if you have the DLC. And it apparently costs 50 monarch points. So in this case of the admin example, it costs 50 admin, and there's a Diplo one and military one as well that costs the relative monarch points types. Alright, another feature of the DLC is going to be expulsion of minorities. This is similar to culture conversion, but not. So the idea is that you take all the weird people that you don't want in your homeland and ship them over to a colony. So this is, I assume you can only do that if you're colonizing at all. And what it does is essentially take the culture and religion of your home province that has people in there that you don't want, and moves it over to a colony. And then that colony is going to get that culture and religion, while you get a colony at home, province at home that has your culture and your religion. So this is sort of a button that does culture conversion and religious conversion at once at the same cost as culture conversion, with modifiers applying, but sort of at the cost that now you have a province, a colony province, that has that weird religion and those oddly cultured people in it. Then again, that's something for your for your colonial nation to deal with, right? So you don't really have to worry too much. They say they did this so you can make America the whole melting pot of cultures that it is. Well, in this world, I don't know how that's going to work out, or whether the colonial nations are still going to just convert everything over to their culture and to their religion. We'll see. But definitely it can make your land at home more homogeneous, which is always helpful. I'm not sure if this is going to be worth the monarch points. We'll have to just try that out, see how it works. Although we're going to talk later about changes to religion and religious conversion, and if, depending on how these changes turn out, it might be more profitable to use this for religious conversion as well. Alright, this also gives a slight development bonus to that colony, I think based on the development in the province, of the province that you're transferring from. Then, there are going to be pirates, and I like this. So pirate republics are a thing now, and they can get into the game in a couple of ways. You can have custom nations. If you have a nation, use the nation designer to make a custom nation, you can make a pirate republic, okay. I don't really use the nation designer much, so it's not super important for me. We can do it by event, so there are certain events that can fire in specific regions, for specific tags. Like we see one here for, I don't know who, but it's the Republic of Saleh event that's spawned there, where these people can become a pirate republic. Looks like it would be Morocco, but Morocco seems a bit big for that. Anyway, so there are events that can convert you to that, and we're gonna have a look at what events actually do that and what tags are eligible for that in a future video sometime. But you can also do it by decision with a couple caveats. You have to be an island is the main one. So they actually have code that identifies whether you're an island or not, and only if you're an island nation you can actually form a pirate republic. Jake said on stream that the check they were doing was to see whether you have a land connection to either Constantinople or I forget what place in America. So they basically see, are you in the big Eurasian African landmass, or are you on the southern Northern America landmass? If you're neither, you're an island. So England would be considered an island, or Great Britain would be considered an island, which I guess it is. So would Australia. So we could have some relatively big pirate republics. So what do? They do use normal republic mechanics. So you have elections and you have factions. You have different factions though than in your normal republic. You have factions based around, well, piratey things like the Buccaneers. And the elections are normal, except that sometimes you get, in certain historic periods, you get the chance to get a historic pirate, like Blackbeard, for example, as your ruler. And they will not cost, so they will have maybe different stats, they didn't really say that, but they will not cost any Republican tradition to re-elect. So because they're such a famous pirate, they won't, people won't be unhappy about constant re-election of the same person, which sounds fun. I mean, it's obviously good. It's a buff to Republic mechanics, and I think it could be quite fun to see specific pirates coming around. That's cool. Now, they do also have some special government reforms. So they take the Republican government reforms, but in some tires they switch out the original Republic decisions to special pirate ones. For example, one I like a lot, the Pirate King one, where your rulers, there are no more elections, your rulers rule for life. And when your ruler dies, your best admiral, I think your best admiral, becomes the new king. So you have these pirate captains going around being your admirals, or the admirals being the pirate captains. And then when the pirate king dies, a new pirate king is chosen from your captains, your admirals in this case. That sounds quite a lot of fun. I don't usually have a lot of admirals, but I guess if you're actually playing pirates, sure. There's a bit of a boat focus in this expansion, and we're going to talk about more changes there in a bit. Unfortunately, I don't really think they're going to revamp naval combat at all, so I don't know how much fun that's going to be, but we'll see. We'll see. And that's the next thing, the next naval thing, flagships. This feels like more of a flavor change than something that's really impactful, but still fun. This is only with the DLC. It's not on the slide, but I think it's only with the DLC. So you can buy a flagship as a nation if you have a certain amount of sailors fielded on your navy. I think it's like 15 heavies worth of sailors, 3,000 sailors maybe. Then you can buy a flagship or build a flagship. It costs 100 ducats plus additional ducats if you make one of up to 3 modifications. And these modifications can be a bunch of different things. I have a list here. You don't have to read all of that. There's even more. They've released some more later on. So there's standard modification, and then there are ones that are specific to specific countries, like Portugal or the Spanish, or the Swedish apparently. And you can get something like 50% more cannons on the flagship. Sure, one ship a bit buffed. That's not super interesting. Flagship durability is not the worst, probably, because it's so expensive. Then again, it doesn't give you anything cool, really. But trade route map, +1 trade power for all ships in the fleet, including like cogs and stuff. So you can have a fleet. Not only can you use your flagship at peace for making more money, but only can make use of your galleys or cogs or whatever at peacetime to also have you make some money. That's pretty cool. +5 engagement width sounds really strong. So it means you can wield 5 more boats or 2.66 more 1.66 more heavies in battle. And unlike land combat, where there's always the same combat width for both sides, so whoever has the better technology determines the combat width, in naval combat you can actually have more combat width than your enemy. So if you have more boats engaged than the enemy, you're doing more damage at the same time, and that's gonna be just good. It's like bringing more boats to the battle. So this seems like so if you actually see naval battles going on a lot, then this seems strong. If you have a big fleet, of course. If you have a small fleet and you're not filling the full combat width, then this doesn't matter at all. Blockade, impact, and siege is pretty nice. And what else do we have here? Portuguese, Spanish, just more cannons. And you see that a lot, that these specific ones, for example, Portuguese trade route map is just double the effect of the normal trade route map, which is obviously really, really good. That's kind of cool. And they've released some more. Also, this is not actually based on flagships, but it fit on this ship page. There's going to be naval barrages. If you have a certain amount of cannons, depending on the fort level, I think it's like 100 cannons per fort level, cannons on your ship, that is, not cannon units, land units, but just the amount of cannons on your ships that are blockading. Then you can use naval barrage, which is the same as artillery barrage, which you can do when you have a lot of artillery, to break down a wall, make a wall breach. You can use your ships to do that instead. And the very interesting part of this is this is available before cannons are available, which is weird, I know. But ships essentially start out with cannons as their combat technology, even if you don't have land cannons. So if you have enough ships, you can do barrages very early on and break down those pesky forts. 4 monarch points, of course. All right. That is most of it. I have a short list of extra features in the end, but this is the main features we're going to get from the DLC as far as we know so far. So a bunch of flavor changes by changing the map, by adding ideas, events, and national quest thingies, whatever they're called, mission trees, for a bunch of Iberian-related things. We have these pirate republics, which are going to be cool. We're definitely going to do some pirate run. I don't know how long yet. We'll have to look at achievements if there is anything cool, but definitely going to go for that. Flagships would seem fine. Small little feature, but it could be nice. And there's even you can capture enemies. You can only have one flagship, but you can capture the enemy's flagship as a trophy. It's not going to have the buff anymore, unfortunately, but you can have it as a trophy, which sounds fun. So we have that. We have the map changes, we have the flavor changes, we have the holy orders, and what did I forget? Yeah, the expulsion of minorities. Small features, but they're going to make the Iberian Peninsula more interesting, I think a lot more interesting. And it has been neglected quite a bit since the launch of the game. They haven't really seen any changes there. And something like playing as Granada, doing the Reconquista, and then forming Andalusia could be not only challenging, but fun. Also, one of the map changes, I don't know if you saw that, you probably did not on the map, is that Navarra no longer has water access, which sounds like a small change, but it makes the start much, much harder. You can't do any sort of Exodus strategy with Navarra anymore. It's going to be much harder to do a lot of things with Navarra. So that could be very interesting and hard start as well in that peninsula. So, content, flavorful fun. Is that enough to warrant buying an expansion? I think I don't have the expansion. We don't have the full list of features. I can't give you a complete answer for that, of course. For me, I'm gonna buy it and play it. I'm not gonna say it's my job because I don't get paid for this, but it is what I do. So I'm definitely gonna get it. If you should get it, really, only if you're looking for something to play in this region of the world. These features, flagships, for example, that's not worth buying the expansion for alone. But that's not what immersion packs are for. Immersion packs, at least the idea of immersion packs, is to focus on a specific region of the world and make that more interesting to play. So either if you're like me and you've played in all regions of the world and you're looking for something new and interesting to play, then that helps because you can add more content to the game. Or if you're saying like, I've always wanted to play as Spain, but it's, or as, I don't know, Granada, Navarra, but it's just, the region seems so lackluster, then this can help improve that a lot. But there's going to be that free patch anyway. So if you don't choose to buy the DLC, which is totally a valid choice, I would say, as with the other immersion packs, they are absolutely not mandatory, there's going to be that free patch. And one of the main things that happens in the free patch that we know about is big changes to the ideas. Now the idea system isn't touched, it's just the same system of you choose idea groups, you have 7 ideas, but they moved a lot of things around, changed a lot of things around, nerfed and buffed a bunch of idea groups, and I'm just going to go through all these. So it's going to be a bit detailed, so bear with me, or don't, you know, just hit that like button, subscribe, and leave, it's fine. We're going to talk about ideas mostly for the rest of this video. It's going to be a tiny bit something else at the end. So, let's have a look at ideas. I'm just going to start with expansion ideas here and see what has changed. These are just all the ideas, and black are the ones that have been changed. The italic one is always the finish of the idea group. So in this case, fabricating claims overseas has stayed the same. But the other half of the finisher there, which is also italic, we used to get 25% state maintenance from expansion. Now we get 5 state slots, which is a huge buff. State slots are always rare, especially if you're trying to expand. And state maintenance was always a bit meh. It's money, and it's just not that much money. You don't run that many edicts, and it's just fine. But plus 5 states, that's a lot. especially with the change to how expansion works and how you get corruption if you have too many territories. This helps a ton. And then the rest that we can see, well, most of the rest that we can see here, are changes that are intended to make expansion more of a colonization focus group. It was always that you took exploration if you were colonizing, and then expansion, maybe if you really needed one more colonist, but really you didn't. Now, a lot of the colonial stuff has moved over to expansion. We can see global settler increase was doubled, so we get plus 20 instead of plus 10 here. That's nice, it's just a good buff. We also see that we get, instead of shipbuilding time minus 10%, we get plus 1 colonist and 5% settler chance. So faster growth of our colonies and extra colonists instead of a very, very crappy thing there, shipbuilding time. So it's really good. Recruitment time, which is also pretty crappy, was also really replaced. And what we can see here is that there's something new. What this idea gives you depends on whether you have Dharma or not. So they added this mechanic that the idea groups are not always the same. They can have things that are only that work on DLC only features. Like in this case, center of trade upgrade cost. You can only upgrade centers of trade if you have Dharma. So it wouldn't make sense to have an idea that it reduces center of trade upgrade cost if you don't have Dharma. So instead what you get is rival border fort maintenance. I think the way I put this down here, but I may be wrong. I think what is actually happening here is you always get 50% reduction of fort maintenance on the border with rivals. But if you have Dharma, you also get reduction in the upgrade cost of center of trade. Is what's happening. We'll see other ones where there's an either or sort of situation. I think here you can just get both if you have Dharma. Rival border fort maintenance not an insane thing to get. Center of trade upgrade cost, sure. You save 200 ducats on the level 3 upgrades. Whatever, right? This part, I mean the previous one, recruitment time minus 10% was horrible, so this is better. Overall, this is a gigantic buff to expansion ideas, and I think this is going to be a lot of a go-to if you do go for colonization these days. You still probably need exploration, so you can actually find places to colonize, but this is the group that really gives you the colonization. We're going to see exploration later on. It has also been changed quite a bit. But first, let's stay in those admin groups. Not as many changes here to innovative. We can see there's another one of those DLC, non-DLC things. If you have Rule Britannia, you now get 50% innovativeness instead of tech cost minus 10%. And if you don't have Rule Britannia, you get 5% idea cost reduction. That is straight up nerf, I would say. 5% idea cost reduction is just less good than 10% technology cost reduction. I did rough math the other day. I don't have it here right now, but you spend a lot more monarch points on tech than you do on ideas over the run of a game, and it's only half the amount, so that's pretty bad. So this is a nerf. And 50% innovative gain. Innovativeness is such a small buff. It's nice to have. I'm not saying it's bad to have, but it's just the. What am I supposed to say? I think technology cost minus 10% was much, much better than this. Then we get institution spread 25% instead of reduced inflation cost. Sure. Institution spread bonuses are pretty bad in the way they stack additively. So the 25% increase in spread is actually going to be much less if you add in the edict and other bonuses to institution spread. So it's not particularly great. It's nice to have, of course. It's always better to have institution spread than not to have it. And it's not like you hit reduce inflation button so much that the 10% reduction was really, really worthwhile. I think it's 75 admin to reduce inflation. So you save 7.5 admin every time you click the button, which is, I don't know, like 4 times in a long campaign or something. Maybe more if you have a lot of gold mines, but still. So this is... Oh, well, there's a slight nerf, but mostly because of the technology cost removal. Makes innovative even more weird to take. which I find weird. Well, duh. Innovative has always been an idea group that is really not that strong, but you have to take it early to really make use of stuff like the technology cost reduction and yeah, mostly the technology cost reduction. And of course, advisor costs and stuff are nice to have them early, but the tech cost reduction is really important to have early. Same for idea cost reduction though, so that doesn't really change. And then you really want innovative for its policies later on. And that hasn't really changed. I don't know what this change is about. It feels like they just... no, I don't know. I just don't know why they did this. Let's continue. Religious ideas. Only 2 changes marked here. There's another one that's hidden. We gain more tolerance of the true faith on idea, what is that, 4 there. And we get reduced missionary maintenance cost. Oh. Instead of missionary strength as heretics. That's a new change I'm going to talk about below. But just briefly, missionary or conversion is going to be much more expensive these days. Once we have the new patch. And on the flip side, and that's the thing that's missing here, we can now again convert in territories. So when Dharma released, they changed it so that you cannot convert religion in territories. Then they changed it so that with the Poland update, I think, that you can now convert in territories if you have religious ideas. And now they're going to remove that again. You can convert territories, but it's going to be expensive. And this helps pay that price. We'll have to see how important the money change to religious conversion is. If it's really harsh, then maybe 50% missionary cost is good. Otherwise, I would really have preferred the 2% conversion instead. Although it's heretics, not heathens, so it really depends on what religion you're running, whether that's going to be important anyway. Humanist. Humanist got nerfed. And I have inconsistency in my spelling there. Anyway, Humanist got nerfed in basically one way. The tolerance gains for heathens and heretics was reduced to 2 instead of 3. I've seen another YouTuber question why you would do that. I'm pretty sure I know why they would do that. Humanist is, first of all, a really good idea group, and I think nerfing it to make it a bit balanced with the others is nice, especially if you want to encourage conversion and religion being important. Then Humanist giving you +3 tolerance to both heretics and heathens, making it almost irrelevant whether people had your religion or not. That was just too harsh. It was too good. So you could just pick Humanist and not care about religion anymore, instead of having to go through the process of converting everybody and dealing with religious ideas and all that. You just went Humanist and it's all good. Now it's slightly less good. So I totally get where that comes from. Maritime ideas have been changed, and that makes a lot of sense because it's one of the least used idea groups. We'll see that that's sort of a theme among these. Now the question is whether it got buffed or not. So what we get is naval tradition from trade, plus 100%, instead of just +1 yearly naval tradition. Sure, naval tradition doesn't seem particularly important, maybe more with fleets being more important these days, but sure. I do think that I gain, at least in my games, most of my naval tradition from trade, so this is probably going to be a buff, but certainly not worth taking that idea group now. Then we have, in addition to that idea group, idea 7 down there, instead of just giving 50% blockade efficiency, we also get 25% privateering efficiency. Okay, that makes sense with the whole pirate theme and all that. If you want to pirate a lot, then that's nice. Sure. And then instead of 2 naval leader maneuver, we get a free naval leader and a reduction in admiral cost. Again, if you're running Pirate Republic and you want multiple admirals to go for that Pirate King thing and all that, okay, I can see it. I just don't see that navies are going to be that important ever. If we really care about this. So yes, I think this is overall a buff to the idea group, but I just don't know when I would need to take that. And it does not give, and this is important, it does not give any, well, it's not a military idea group, so it makes sense, but still it does not give any combat bonuses, any naval combat bonuses. So in games where naval is really important, I assume naval combat would be really important, and then, yeah. There must be, I don't know what would happen to me outside of some sort of stipulation that I have to take maritime ideas. I don't know why I would take this idea group still. It just seems bad. Now we go to exploration. And exploration, you see, is another one that has massive change. We already saw those changes to expansion, and now we see what they did to exploration. And expansion got buffed a lot, and exploration did not. One thing that happened that's sort of neutral, I think fine, maybe even good, is that they swapped out the first two ideas. So now you don't get a colonist before you can explore. So for most colonizers, there's not a lot of land around that they can colonize without exploring first. So it makes sense to be able to recruit explorers before you can get that colonist. There are nations where that's not true, where it's going to be a bit of a nerf if you do have uncolonized land next door. But in most cases, I think this is just going to be a slight buff, but not highly relevant or anything, just a slight buff. Then we get global settler increase down to +10 from +20. So this is a swap from expansion. It used to be that expansion at +10, exploration at +20. Now it's the other way around. Nerf to one, buff to the other. Okay? You want us to take expansion. I get it. Half the tariff bonus, 10% instead of 20%. It's a nerf, but at least the way I play terrorists have never been highly relevant, so that's fine. Envoy travel time -20% is never something I'm after, but it is nice in late game where you try to talk to people all over the world, or even your colonial nations. I think this is what this is thought to be for. It's just a nice quality of life thing. It doesn't do anything important. And then if you have Golden Century, so the new Immersion pack, then you get -25% expel minority cost. We've talked about expelling minorities, so that's going to be less pricely on the Monarch points. Dip, as it should be. If you don't have Golden Century, you get 5% settler chance. That might just be better than the expel minority cost. So this might actually be some place where having the expansion is a negative. But we'll see how good expelling minorities is. Maybe this is really good, and we're going to be happy about it. And this used to be colonists +1, which is of course the colonist that's now given an expansion instead. So they moved settler increase and a colonist from here to expansion to make that group more interesting. You probably just have to take both if you do a real colonial game now, because just having one colonist is really not enough. And that settler increase is really good at the beginning. Later on, you have a lot of other modifiers to global settler increase, and it's not going to be much. But early on, it's just you almost double your settler increase, which is just really good. All right, on to the diplomatic. Oh no, this was already to the same diplomatic idea group, diplomatic ideas. There's just one change here. Instead of cost of reducing war exhaustion being reduced by 33%, we now get half a point of prestige per year. Okay. I mean, sure. Is that a buff? Maybe. I don't like pressing the reduce war exhaustion button, not even if I have diplomatic ideas, which I rarely do. So I guess it's better to have prestige, but this is highly relevant to the idea group after all. I don't know what the reasoning behind this is. More changes to influence ideas. We have subject liberty desire, which I really like. And I really like having it in influence ideas. We used to have chance of a new era plus 25% and prestige 0.05 there, which were not bad, but subject liberty desire seems much better for late game. Early game, it's not going to be great, but late game, just being able to have bigger and more subjects because they have less liberty desire seems a lot of fun. And we could really use that in our current paper state run that we're doing on this channel. Then we get +1 Diplo relations instead of aggressive expansion impact. It makes sense from a flavor point of view. You want to have a lot of vassals, you pick influence, and then having the ability to have more vassals is quite good. So getting that Diplo relation there is nice. But I like aggressive expansion impact reduction. I like it a lot. So I'm going to miss that a lot. And I think that's going to be... Influence is going to be a group that I'm going to pick up later now. Actually, I'm just seeing that we don't even get the bonus declarations, never mind. They just moved it from the 6th idea to the 4th there. So we used to get 25% envoy travel time reduction and a declaration on idea 6. And now we just get the declarations a bit earlier, and we essentially lose the AE impact. So it's a straight up nerf to the idea group there. This is going to be a late game idea group for me now, as it looks. I don't see why I would pick this up early anymore without the AE impact. Late, you have a lot of big subjects. Maybe you want to annex some of those, you want to make the other ones less libertarians, and you need to have more relations to even keep all those subjects around. Then you pick influence ideas, but this doesn't seem like a early game idea anymore. Except for that Vessel Force Limit contribution, which is good early on and not as good later. Still, I think it's a straight up nerf. Sad. Wait. Only one of these can be influence ideas? Yes, this is spy ideas, espionage ideas, with a bad header there. Of course, one of the least picked idea groups in the game, and you would assume that we got a buff here. Let's see what changed. We get foreign spy detection plus 33% instead. And we no longer get the trade power bonus on idea 3 there, which, okay. I mean, I guess proximity trade power didn't make much sense in espionage ideas, but why would you nerf it there? Let's see if we get a lot of buffs. So there's the aggressive expansion impact that we saw in influence ideas before. That has moved to espionage ideas, and the liberty design subjects that we got in influence now is now in espionage. So it's just a swap there. Numbers are a bit different, but overall it's just a swap. Put the AE impact here. Reduced cost to fabricate claims is old, but they added the fact that you can now fabricate claims on behalf of your vassals. Okay, so you can fabricate on somebody that's neighboring a vassal, fabricate a claim there. It's still going to be your vassal's claim, but so if you, like me, have subjects that refuse to fabricate claims for whatever reasons, either because they're libertarians or because they're diplomats or because they're just freaking lazy, you can do that fabrication and then give them that claim and then declare war on their behalf. And it's cheaper to fabricate. So if you, I guess this is the idea is that this is an alternative to influence ideas now. And it says, I know it says influence on the top. It is not influence, this is espionage. So the aggressive expansion impact for early expansion, fabricating claims on behalf of your vassals so you can expand your vassals quicker and even more faster with cost to fabricate being reduced, and then liberty desire being the late game. So I guess the idea would be that this is the vassal swarm play style idea group to go for early on, and then late game you add influence ideas for the bonuses we've talked about. There's embargo and privacy efficiency, which is sure. One free diplomat is nice, but not insane. It also helps with the claims thing, though. So if your main limitation in your campaign is that you can't fabricate claims in fast enough and your subjects are so slow at fabricating claims, then maybe this can help. Advisor cost reduction, corruption reduction is actually quite nice. It's old, but it's still nice. I'm just trying to figure out whether I like this idea group now. The fact that the finisher is still rebel support efficiency, unless I made a mistake copying this. I don't want rebel support efficiency ever. Oh yeah, we also have that spy network. So this is really an idea group for just quickly, really quickly fabricating claims and then expanding, I guess. And then you have the AE impact reduction to make up a bit for the aggression you're gonna cause. I could see there being a playstyle around this. It still doesn't seem particularly powerful, but I could see it. Maybe. I need to try this. I need to play this and try it. All right, up to military ideas. Quantity has just one change. We have supply limit modifier plus 33% instead of available mercenaries. This is just straight up buff to me, because quantity wasn't good enough. Maybe that's some sort of thing for multiplayer. I don't know. More supply limit is just really nice. You have these. I always have the issue with quantity ideas. You have these big stacks that you want to run around because you have all that manpower and force limit, and then you can't run them around at that because they don't fit in the provinces. They take a ton of attrition, or you have to split them up and move them individually. And but now 33% more supply limit. There are not a ton of supply limit modifier bonuses, so this could be almost a flat 33%. Yeah, and I've never hit the mercenary cap. I know people have in multiplayer. Certainly, people have in single player too, but it's mostly a multiplayer thing, I think. So maybe this is a slight nerf for multiplayer, and I think it's a buff, at least for lazy people like me in single player. All right. Naval, another idea group that's never used. Only saw one change. Instead of prestige from naval battles and naval tradition from battles, we now get just flat yearly naval tradition. It's probably a buff because there are not that many naval battles. So you're probably going to get more naval tradition from just the yearly tick than from the 100% extra or 50% extra from battles. And the prestige was negligible anyway. I don't think that is good enough in the buff to make this useful. But then again, naval ideas are not bad. They're just naval, which makes them bad. But morale is of course good. Leader shock and fire is great. Durability on ships is great. 10% bonus engagement. I talked about 5 extra engagement. Although that's 5 flat engagement being good. 10% extra is like 3 on basic engagement, so you get 33 instead of 30. That's already good. And then even more if you have that flagship. Galley compatibility can be really good. And it's either galley or heavy ships that you count on when you do naval combat. So all that is good. It's just that naval combat usually doesn't matter. At least not enough to actually take a naval idea group. But if you are in a position where naval combat is really important for you, this is a good idea group, and the change didn't change anything. Alright? That's the idea groups, and what does it mean for us overall? I think the biggest changes were exploration versus expansion. Now really seems like you need both for proper colonization. So I guess it's a nerf in a way, because now you need to take 2 groups instead of 1 to get more or less the same. Of course you get a bit more, but you get more or less the same thing that you had before with just taking exploration. I do like the swap around with the explorers, that's pretty good. Otherwise it's just to make colonization a bit slower. Was it too strong? Was it too strong for the AI? I don't know. Didn't feel like it was too strong. I mean, it was a lot of money in colonization and all. Well, it's also a lot of effort to do. But now you're going to need to take 2 idea groups. And that's the main thing. And then we have the change of influence ideas to probably not being a good early game idea group. And maybe espionage ideas becoming a decent early game idea group if you want to go Vessel Swarm. Good to see it. And then the rest is just gravy, mostly. So anything else? Quantity wasn't really important. Diplomatic wasn't important. That's the stuff. Maritime is still feels useless. Maybe in one of the pirate runs, but I don't even know when I would want this. I just don't know. Humanist is a straight up nerf. Religious is just a bit of a swabberoo. And innovative is also a slight nerf. Yeah. That's it for the idea group. So, bunch of changes, not too much swapping around, but colonizing games are going to change, and maybe Vessel Swarm games are going to do that too. So much for the ideas. I just have a couple of additional features that are going to be in the DLC, and then we're going to be done here. I already talked about the religious conversion changes, so conversion is again possible in territories. Conversion cost, money cost to convert, is now no longer sort of a fixed cost based on how many missionaries you're using, but it's dynamic based on development of the province you're converting and the autonomy of the province. And the autonomy is the important part because it's used in an exponential way. So the higher the autonomy is, the more money you have to pay to convert the province, and it grows, well, exponentially instead of just linearly. So having a very high autonomy province is going to be really, really expensive to convert, and the territory is, well, floored at 75% autonomy, so converting territory is possible again, yes, but probably really freaking expensive. And for your non-territories even, you may want to wait for autonomy to drop off before you convert it. Also, this means that estates inherently make it more expensive to convert a province because of their autonomy floor of 25%. So maybe, we don't know how these numbers are going to be. They give us the formula, but the formula has a bunch of factors in it that we don't know. So we don't actually know how expensive things are going to be. But if it's going to be really expensive to convert, then maybe something like religious could be interesting with a 50% reduction. Or you could just go humanist still and just ignore the whole religion thing. Or you export all your minorities to the New World. Maybe that's what we're going to go for. I don't know. We'll see. I have to see how the numbers shake out. There are also going to be 2 new naval doctrines if you have Rule Britannia. So Rule Britannia introduced 3.5 naval doctrines. So 3 for everyone and then 1 for Great Britain, I think. And there are 2 new ones who might be limited to Iberian countries. I don't quite remember. It's not going to be a huge change anyway. It's just a bit more to that feature in Rule Britannia. There's a bunch of AI changes that come down mostly to AI being better at protecting their own homeland, leaving more troops at home when invading other people, reconsidering the importance of protecting their homeland more often. And another change I don't have on the slide here is that they will not run as far anymore when being beaten. So Shattered Retreat, they won't as often just run all across the world, especially if they have military access for or allies far away. They won't run all across Asia and then come back. They will just take a shorter route and are more likely to stand their ground, is what it said in that death diary, which is nice. I hate chasing stacks around, so that could be good. And then, of course, there are going to be 10 new achievements, 2 of which have already been spoiled in the stream. One was for, I think it was for Navarra, timed achievement for certain conversion and conquest. I think it was Navarra. And the other one was about capturing somebody else's flagship. Just as always, there are going to be some difficult achievements to do and some that are just showing off the features of the DLC. And I'm going to be really interested to see what the other 8 achievements are and what the Navarra one, if it is Navarra, actually is, so we can decide on some future campaign. But I'm going to make a separate video on that once the achievements are out. That's all. That's all I have on the Golden Century and upcoming Immersion pack for EU4. I've talked about whether you should buy it or not. It's your choice. Look at more things, decide whether you want to play in the Spanish area. If not, you probably don't need to get it, unless you're like me and you just want to have everything anyway. I'm sure I'm going to play in that area, maybe even ahead of time, if Paradox does give me access. If not, we're going to start a campaign once the thing is actually out. We'll see. Until then, check out my other campaigns. I always have running campaigns here on this channel. If you've not seen my videos, check them out. I find them to be interesting, so maybe you can too. Thank you guys for watching. Hit those like and subscribe buttons if you have liked and subscribed. Well, no, hit the like and subscribe buttons if you have liked the video. And I have a comment section down there that I'm particularly happy to talk to all my viewers in. Period. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys next time.